Thank you, sir.
So now, as I said before, we'll invite Professor Manoj Datta from the second session for his presentation on the waste to energy. And we all know that waste to energy is a very important subject to go, because we have to consider waste as a resource, and this resource we have to use to the fullest, because we have very scarce land to dispose them. So we need to have waste to energy as a solution for waste management, which provides us wealth from the waste. We should not consider waste as a waste, we should consider it as a resource. Now I invite Professor Manoj Datta. He is Head of Civil Engineering Department, IIT Delhi, well-renowned professor with the specialization of geotechnical engineering, landfill engineering, municipal solid waste, hazardous waste management. So he has many projects or consultancy which he has handled, and also the research work on his credit. Please, sir, I invite you. Thank you, sir, for coming and enlightening us with your talk. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, sir.
Okay. So, good afternoon to everybody, and sorry to butt in like this because of some personal reasons. I'm going to speak on not waste to energy, but waste to wealth. And as we are all aware of the work going on at the various dumps where a lot of biomining is going on, I'm going to share the whatever little experience we have there at IIT Delhi. So, I'm just trying to move the slide. Who has? Okay, I'll do that. Use the next. Okay, so we are aware of the three major dumps in Delhi. These are all 60 to 65 meters high, and they have 6 million, 8 million, and 14 million tons of waste in them. These are at Okhla, Bhalswa, and Ghazipur. And do they look very benign from far away? When you go on top of a dump, a lot of things are happening. There are people who are disposing the waste. There's leachate coming out. There's a lot of activity at the top because waste is still coming in most of the dumps at 1,000 to 2,000 tons per day. The question that we are addressing is, can we generate reusable resources from these old garbage mountains? And can we make these mountains disappear? So the idea is that if I can dig up this waste and do excavation, screening, and processing, can I get out combustibles, building materials, soil, compost, rejects from this waste? And this is basically by excavating, pulverizing, segregation by screening, and magnetic separation, air separation, and others. And the philosophy is that if I can make this dump disappear, I would like to reuse this land. Many people do forget that underneath the land there's a contaminated plume. So that plume would have to be treated, and then the remediated land would be available for reuse. So what are the studies that we've done at IIT Delhi? We've been to all the three landfills. We've dug very deep holes, excavated large amount of material, and we have just done segregation manually, as you can see here, after drying and pulverizing the waste. And we have seen what comes out from these dumps. And we have been able to get to waste which is between 10 to 25 years old in these dumps. And these are the screens that we have used, and this is the kind of material which comes out. You can see soil-like material, you can see gravel. This is, of course, cleaned up. So there's plastics and textiles and glass and unburnt inorganics and other kind of stuff. The important thing to note is that if you look at the soil-like fraction and the fine gravel fraction, that's about 72 to 77%. C&D waste, which is the large size stones and aggregate and concrete chunks, is balanced. Very little combustibles and other type of stuff. They look large in quantity, but they're very as far as weight is concerned. So I'm going to focus on this 80%. What can we do with this 80%? Because you can't make the waste dump disappear if you can't use this 80% material. So the C&D waste which comes out, the large chunks are sent to the C&D processing plant from which building materials can be made. And the plastics and the textiles are converted into RDF and can be sent to the waste to energy plants or to cement plants to recover energy. So what do we do with this soil-like material? And is it clean? So the thought is that they can be used in earthworks as replacement for local soil. That means you can fill low-lying areas, you can make embankments with these, or even if you are able to fill the deep mining pits. Or there is a thought that can we use this as a compost in horticulture. So let's see whether we can do this. But before so idea is we take up this, mine the waste and take out the soil-like material, which is 80%, make an embankment or fill low-lying areas or fill deep pits. Deep pits, for example, Bhatti mines. I'm not propagating that, but I'm giving you the philosophy which is being discussed. So the questions which come to everybody's mind is, are there contaminants in the soil? And are the engineering properties, that is the strength, compressibility, and permeability, good enough? So in this context, I would like to introduce three terms. Whenever we are dealing with waste materials on land, we call it hazardous waste, non-hazardous waste, and inert waste. So inert waste is typically the C&D waste and the soil. And hazardous waste is what comes out from the industries, which has got heavy metals. So this is normally stored in landfills with multi-layer lining and cover systems, 5 to 6 layers in each at the bottom and at the top, so that this is completely isolated. Non-hazardous waste is the garbage or the municipal solid waste with which we deal, and that also has liners in the landfills. And typically a 3-layer system is adopted in non-hazardous waste. And of course, in inert waste, you don't need anything, but sometimes wind erosion can be so high, it gives you so much dust, so you might need a vegetative cover. So you may have a 1 layer or no layer if it is just gravel-sized material. So now the question is the soil-like material, the word SLM that I'm using is soil-like material, which is coming out from these waste dumps, is it hazardous? And typically one does a TCLP, toxicity characteristic leaching procedure test, and the answer is our emissions are lower than the TCLP limits, so the material is not hazardous. Then the next question is the soil-like material inert? Is it like soil? So is SLM like soil? And let's have a look at it. Let's compare it with the local soil. So we take the soil-like material from the landfills and we look at its organic content. It's 6 to 18%. Local soil has 1 to 1.2%. Regulatory limits, if you're going to make embankment, is that the organic content should be less than 5%. Otherwise, long-term settlements of the embankment will cause whatever you construct on it, a road or anything else, to become bumpy and not function properly. When I look at the total soluble solids in the soil-like material, they're very high, 1.5 to 2%. And in the local soil, they are less than 0.1%. And if you look at the regulatory limits, then the sulfates and the chlorides exceed the regulatory limits in this material. And finally, if you pass some water through the soil, and this is Delhi silt, and you pass this water, you'll get clean drinking water. I can pass water from one end and drink it at the other end. But if you pass water through this soil-like material, this is from Okhla, this is from Kadapa, this is from Hyderabad, so you get this kind of colored water. And even if you pass 10 times the volume of water in comparison to the volume of the soil, the color doesn't go away. So in a nutshell, and if you look at the heavy metals, though the TCLP does not release heavy metals, in comparison to the local soils, for example, chromium 10 to 28, soil-like material 89 to 230. If I look at lead, for example, 4 to 6, 333. So elevated heavy metals are there. And even these are the total heavy metals, these are the leachable heavy metals. Anything red means there's a warning. So is SLM inert and is it like the local soil? The answer is no. Okay, then let's address the next question. Is the soil-like material like compost because it has got reasonably high organic content? And when we do that, and we have the solid waste management rules, and they describe what is a good compost, and they say compost must have more than 12% organic carbon. Our soil has only 4 to 8, but NPK are all right, but it fails on inadequate organic carbon. And if you look at the heavy metals as for compost standards, then again the same problem. Chromium is up there, lead is up there, Mercury is up there. So really heavy metals are high. So is it like compost? The answer is no. So let me summarize. The soil-like material is not hazardous, which therefore people say it's inert, but it is not. Soil-like material is not inert. Soil-like material is non-hazardous, just like the municipal solid waste from which it is derived, and it emits pollutants. It does not meet international guidelines for direct application on land or as compost. So if you look at the geotechnical properties, strength, compressibility, it's okay for non-structural fills. Means compressibility means long-term settlements will be there, but its strength is fine. So SLM is okay for non-structural fills if the contaminants can be isolated. We don't want the contaminants going down into the soil. And what do I mean by isolated? If I look at the German and the Netherlands standard, they're talking of sealing off this material with the layers at the top, or isolated reuse, and we can just keep this material isolated from the environment or from the ecosystem. Otherwise, you have to treat it, and there are many treatment technologies which are being currently developed. They're pretty expensive. Let's see what's happening on the site. This is the field operations going on. This is your dump. This is the rotating. So in the site, you use a trommel, which is a rotating screen. You put the feeder in here. It rotates. Whatever is finer than that, it comes out. Then a conveyor belt deposits it. Here you can see the excavator excavating the material and putting it in a hopper. People are standing up here to remove the oversized stones, and across the conveyor it comes out. And this is the soil-like material. And there's just two screens are being used. So this is the largest sized material, which is not soil-like material. We are talking about this stuff. So as per the NGT order of 2019, biomining of all waste dumps are underway at Delhi, and NGT has said that all the 2,000 waste dumps across the country should be biomined. So the hand-picked material is the 20 to 30% C&D waste is going to C&D processing plants wherever they exist. The minus 6 mm material is the soil-like material. In Delhi, it's being sent to an ash pond to make an eco park. The minus 30 to plus 6 mm material is what they are being called inerts, wrongly called inerts because they have all the contaminants. They are going into low-lying areas and pits, or they are being kept at the same site. And this is the real problem, that if they are sent to low-lying areas and they are not isolated, there is going to be a problem. So the productivity of these trommels is coming out to be much lower than what was anticipated. And if the moisture content of the waste is high, clods cause the clogging of the trommels. If the moisture content is low, dust comes out. And you must be reading in the newspapers now. This is just like an aggregate crushing and screening plant. The screening plants create a lot of dust. And nowadays in Delhi, we are talking about dust emissions from landfills. And this is what is happening there. And of course, during the monsoons, the operations cease. So where do we stand? If you look at the global practice, soil-like material mined from old landfills is retained at the landfill itself or placed in new landfills far away, which are lined. So it's kept isolated. The recent NGT order has directed the mining of the municipal solid waste dumps, and this is leading to unrestricted spreading, because what has not been said is how the material should be resealed when it is placed at a new location. So if you take an MSW dump with a plume below it, and you, for example, sooner or later you will get a request to put it into deep mines because there's not enough place to send this material away. It will go into a deep pit. If you don't line the deep pit, you'll get a new plume. So you'll have two sites: one the original site with the contaminant plume, and one the new site with the contaminant plume. So unrestricted reuse can cause slow spread if sealing or isolation is not done properly. And this word is very simple, but isolation and sealing is a very complex operation. So when we talk about an embankment made of soil, it looks like this. But if you're going to use soil-like material, you'll have to have these multi-component liner systems, and you'll have to have a leachate collection system. And if you put them in deep pits, be sure that you will need multi-layer liners and covers, and of course, leachate removal systems. And if you want to use, and this is all for non-structural fills, that means things like parks and raising low-lying areas, you can't put a road on it. If you want to use it as a structural fill, which has a structural element on top of it, because the organic content is very high, this material has to undergo treatment so that there is no color, there are no salts which come out of it, and there is no organic content. So this would require washing and thermal treatment at the minimum. And this is, of course, very expensive. the material being sent to the ash pond at the eco park, we can look at it that this material is a low organic content compost with some heavy metals in it. So SLM, this heavy metal content, if you look at the European literature, is okay for non-edible variety of vegetation. It cannot be used for agricultural purposes, but perhaps it can be used. So if this SLM is going to be placed in very thin layers, say 30 centimeters, and mixed with the local soil, and non-edible variety of vegetation is going to grow on it, then grass does grow on it. And I must tell you this because people will keep on telling you material is not bad, bahut acha ghas ugta hai. But remember this, here is that leachate coming out. It rained a few days ago, so the dark colored leachate will come out and grass will grow on it, but it should be of the non-edible variety. So at this time, we can only say the following, that we must have a restricted use of this material, and this entire dumps cannot be made to disappear by spreading this material all over Delhi, because that will cause slow poisoning of everything. And I'd like to just acknowledge the funding we received from MOE, FMCC, and FIRP, the officers of SDMC, EDMC, and DMC who helped us, my colleagues at IIT, and my research students who are working on coal ash, mined waste, waste to energy ash, I'll talk on another time, and process CND waste. And these are our publications. If you would like to see what are the contaminants in all this is all in well published now. And these are some of the important other references. And thank you. And since I'm going to be leaving early, my questions can be sent to mdatta@iitd.ac.in. Thank you, and sorry for disrupting the normal flow of things.
No, sir, we can understand your problem. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience, and especially with the biomining of landfills, because that is a very important topic nowadays. And all three we are going to do a biomining. And we recently visited also Ghazipur landfill area, whose the height is increasing as the become as a Qutub Minar. So I and Dr. Dheeraj has went there, and we have seen the trauma, how they are working there. So thank you very much, sir, for sharing your experience.
Superb linked.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next, again, we are going to the second session. The second session is waste to energy. So already we had one presentation from Dr. Professor Manoj Dattaji from IIT Delhi, who has said about the biomining. So next is in the line is Professor Rana Pratap Singh Ji. He is from Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University. He is a Dean of Department of Environmental Sciences, Chairperson of UP State Environmental Impact Assessment Appraisal Authority, and he has large number of paper in his credential. He has done research on eco-friendly usage of fertilizer, phytoremediation. He has more than 150 publication. He has large number of project also he has handled. So, sir, please, I invite you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, being here. Thank you.
Namaskar. After spending, and I just enjoyed the session very well, and we had very extensive lectures by two very significant experts of very highly rated institutions. I am very grateful to the organizers, this Alumni Association of JNU and GRC and all other organizers to inviting me and to giving the opportunity to listen and to share my views. After having a 40 years in academics and research, few questions comes to my mind. We are having a lot of informations on various subjects, and as these experts presented their work, I think a very big number of experts from various institutions, various government departments are there who have a lot of work in various fields. But now, most of the, when being in academics, I feel that most of the understanding we are having about subjects are of it has a overview and cover up the entire global problems and national problems sometimes. But now, with this self-reliant movement of government of India, we are realizing that we have to translate the knowledge which have been gathered to grassroots level solutions. So what will be a structured planning for that? How we can develop a skilled manpower? Can we incorporate the translational process, which I think the people like Dr. Dheeraj Singh must be understanding who are in business? Can we incorporate such skills and knowledge in our courses? New education policy says it, but this is a big challenge. The people who are associated with academics understand that accommodating the very global science research which is going on day to day at global level, and then adding to a new dimension how this knowledge can be converted into translational research and can be converted into translational uh, plans, business, self-reliant business models. It is a big challenge. Second point I just want to underline that two new happenings, climate change and related global warming and other disaster increase disasters and change in precipitation pattern and these aspects. And then global focus on sustainable development goals. These two aspects, which are recent phenomena, at least recent realizations, and it has given a very significant emphasis on environmental and climatic studies. So, being researcher, being academician, the entire uh, institutions and government departments have a challenge to lead towards, means convert the knowledge to a solution. This part is very significantly missing, and I think after a lot of government projects are made and implemented in the field, but we don't have authentic monitoring and analysis system which can give input regularly to add to programs so that programs can be changed and effectivity of programs can be validated. This part is also important. So how our knowledge can be developed into startups, to say in nutshell business models, and how, and that too is small business models, and how uh, like government institutions, if these business models will also not be able to make effective intervention at grassroots level, then there will be no benefit of that. So, monitoring, evaluation, scientific analysis, and incorporation of whatever is coming to the plans and perspectives is very important, and those areas are, I think, most challenging. I, at least as a teacher, as a researcher, after 4 decades in this field, realize that probably people should uh, shift some attention from core research to developing structured planning for implementation of these knowledge, science technology based knowledge through the business models, because we have to make it self-sustainable. We cannot depend on government input all the time. So this is one very challenging area where I just wanted to underline, uh, uh, which is very challenging, and we should work. I think academicians, researchers, business people, and youth, rather the people who are having a very energetic expectations should come together and work on these translational aspects. Secondly, what are areas where the experts have explained certain fields in very details, very pertinent fields in climate science and in waste management. I think that certain areas are emerging. There may be more areas, but I will just like to count certain areas where these startups can be initiated, so that we can concentrate on certain aspects, how to go for research to translation and to grassroots solutions. One is certainly the this, as we talked, environmental science people or climate science people can go for giving forecast information, as our climatic scientists are doing a lot and government system is doing, to the persons, especially in agriculture. A lot of crisis is there due to increasing disasters, which have been enhanced very rapidly by climate change happenings. So how actually we are talking since long, a few years I can see that these information should reach to people, and our colleague at meteorology department is telling that it is government is doing it. But I think farmers, if farmers are able to get benefit of that, and they are really availing the benefit and resolving their problems, resolving their losses, then why people are not interested in agriculture? This question come to my mind. There is a lot of research we are doing in agriculture science. Several institutions, several departments from states and centers, but why people are not interested in agriculture? Certain basic questions are lying which are related to translation. I will not say extension. Sometimes technologies which are developed are not acclimatized at grassroots level. We have a very varied agroclimatic, climate and regional, cultural diversity, and unless that social, cultural, economic diversities will be addressed for for just implementing the technologies which are developed by the institutions, it will be not fruitful. I think many technologies. I understand technology and I understand grassroots problems, and I can say that many technologies are not able to be adopted by people due to certain reasons. Nobody talks about those reasons. There are so many. I will not talk just here because time is less. But there are a big, huge gap, and that gap has to be fulfilled in a very structured planning, which has not been discussed in our country yet. So agriculture, then solar energy. I think now we are talking that in India, solar energy can be very successful, and in distant places also, local grids can be established, and even rate from say 12 rupees per unit to 4 5 rupees per unit have come down. But then we shall require a huge network for establishing solar energy systems and for maintaining it, repair and maintenance. That will require a lot of service inputs, and many service startups can come in this area. Waste management, certainly not only in urban areas where a huge mountain of waste is seen, and our colleague described how it can be managed scientifically. In rural area also, a lot of waste, toxic and non-toxic waste are getting generated, and it require a kind of management system. So waste management, including bioremediation or other remediation systems, have a huge potential in the coming days, where air, water, soil has to be remediated, and waste management has to be done in a very scientific way, so that it should not contaminate again the ecosystems, which is happening at present, and it can be utilized for more useful substances. For example, even in agriculture, if you take banana, which is getting cultivated in a large area, uh, every part can be used for various products, and certain technologies are available for fiber, for say certain very useful products from its trunk. So all those things are there, but we don't have system to utilize it. In agriculture, especially, I would like to say that a lot of resources are utilized. Natural resources are utilized to produce food or produce any plant, and that if that is not completely utilized, adequately utilized, then we are allowing a lot of wastage of the natural resources without which could have been utilized, and farmers' income could have been increased multifold. So this, so many other like I in last but not in least, I would like to say that these monitoring, evaluation, and analysis services are going to grow as a very promising sector in coming days in service sector related to environment, because if government will really be serious to implement their plans, they have to adopt the third party evaluation services. And if it will not be adopted, I am very clear that our plans are not going to be successful. So this, I think, we should, as university teacher, I feel we are struggling with the implementation of new education policy, and how at least till we are working in a system, we have to see how we can incorporate these requirements in our educational syllabus and educational plans. But then here, many sectors are getting represented, and I think people from different sectors must think about these things, how we can very structurally develop the ways and means to establish self-sustained translational translational projects and startups, which can I can just say that many of you are knowing that consultancy services in environmental science, the environment technology, and these basically climate science, have given maximum job to people, and maximum business establishments have come in these areas. So this is one area. So many areas, similar areas, are waiting for initiative from different sectors, from people with different kind of experience, and they should come together and work something in a very practical way. So with these words, I offer my input, my services, if required by anyone. I have a mission to go for from core research to these translational research things, and where startups can be initiated and we can help people to go for startup. So I think I appeal you all to find these kind of initiatives, and let us fulfill this requirement, which is still not taken up as it should have been taken. And this government call, Prime Minister's call, has given a very good opportunity to all of us to move towards that. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your providing us the baseline study, how we can go for a baseline study, and how can we make ourselves self-sustainable and self-reliant in grassroots level. Sir, you have given a good examples of the agriculture, how can planning and agriculture should go together, and whatever the gap is in it should be removed. Waste management, solar energy, So all this definitely going to help us, and we can think on it, and we will do the practical work ahead. Thank you, sir. And small business model also, sir. All explained very nicely. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now I'll invite our next speaker, Ms. Surbhi Tomar. She is from Paryawaran Sarakshan Gatividhi, National Pracharak Pramukh, and working in 738 District on Environmental Management and Sustainability. Welcome, ma'am. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Dhanyavad, Manjuji.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, that was very nice. I will share my screen. Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Can you see my screen?
I think, yeah.
Yes,
Now it's
yes.
available there. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, सबसे पहले तो सभी को नमस्कार, धन्यवाद. Today I will, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but bear with me while I present a few numbers that you guys might be interested in. I will touch base upon two topics today. One is EcoBricks, and that is basically waste segregation at source. Second is how we can tie this back to a circular economy so that we can become an Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, firstly, a little bit of introduction about who we are, Paryawaran Sanrakshan Gatividhi. We are a nationwide environment organization. We have presence almost in every single state of India, from Arunachal Pradesh to Goa to Jammu Kashmir to even Kerala, in about 738 districts. Around 7,500 people work directly with us, and about 11 lakh people have registered to become our volunteers. What do we do? We focus on three things, which is Paid Lagao, Pani Bachao, and Polythene Hatao. This third topic is what I will be touching base upon today. How do we do this? How do we do Polythene Hatao? How do we do waste segregation at source? What Pramod Kumarji said in the very beginning of this entire webinar was, what is waste? That is something that we also question ourselves. What is waste? Is the newspaper that comes out of our house, is that considered as waste? We don't think of that as waste. Why? Because it has some monetary value attached to it. It is tying back to the economy in some way. There is a businessman who makes money out of that. We, as a house owner, make some money out of it. So what about the rest of the garbage that we are throwing out? Does that have some monetary value? Bear with me while I share some numbers. For example, in Calcutta, 4,500 tons of MSW, which is the municipal solid waste, goes out. And that is organic waste. But a survey done in Bangalore, Bangalore's composting sites, the government-owned composting sites, showed that this organic waste, the segregated waste that was coming to these composting sites, out of that, about 85% was non-compostable. The reason was the small pieces of cut plastic that we have, that we just throw away. It could be a bottle cap, it could be the single-used plastic, it could be, and most importantly, it is the cut pieces. When you get a milk packet, that small piece of plastic, we just throw it away. No one can segregate it, not the scavengers, not the municipal bodies. What happens to that is that it ends up creating about 1 lakh ton of waste every month. Now, in the presentation, I will speak about it. See, in our Indian culture, we know that we have deep roots in the environment. We have a culture of speaking of worshipping our land. We have a culture of worshipping trees. It is deep rooted. In fact, research shows that rural areas produce almost no waste. that goes into the landfill, which is changing now because of plastic and polythene. Now, again, this is a huge problem. These cut pieces of plastic, the single-use plastic, 26,000 tons of single-use plastic that goes into landfills every year. That is a humongous problem because, as even Manoj Datta ji showed, this becomes leachate. It goes into our groundwater, and it ends up becoming part of our ecosystem. It goes into around 10 square kilometer of groundwater around a landfill. There are 4,000 landfills across India. And these landfills are usually surrounded by farmers. These farmers are growing these vegetables and rice and other crops, which we end up buying. And these small plastic pieces, molecules, have been found in plants, which end up in our blood, and they can never come out. This has even created a whole lot of problem for us because it messes with our hormones. It's even carcinogenic. The single-use plastic, the other problem that it creates is it kills lakhs of animals every year. We think that we just thrown away a piece of plastic and it will end up in a landfill and nothing will happen. But that is not the case. Cows are eating it and they are dying by the thousands every month. Even in oceans, we 100 kgs of plastic in their stomach and they have died. Pieces of plastic have been found in Antarctica. Now I'm creating the problem statement, so bear with me. And whatever we are throwing, it is coming back to us. Do not think that the polythene or the cut pieces of plastic that are going away are just going away. They are not. They are going into our mineral water. They have been found in just regular mineral water because no machine can remove these plastic pieces. It's entering our blood. It's, as I said, it is carcinogenic. It's affecting our hormones. It is creating a whole bunch of problems. So what do we do? Now, one more interesting data set. Here you can see the plastic waste generation per person from 2010 data. This is a little bit old data, but still, India is almost negligible. It's one of the least consumers of plastic per person. However, comes to the disposal system, we are one of the worst. About 85% of our plastic waste that is created is disposed of in a really bad manner. And we all know it because it ends up on our roads. We see it everywhere. The problem is the microplastics. Right now, we are at about 1 million tons. This is across the world surface area. If we stop it now, we might be able to just stop it at 1.5 million tons. But if we don't, it might reach to 2.5 million. These microplastics are the really, really, really tiny small pieces of polythene and plastic. Now, I will come back to the solution. How do we stop it? Do you think we can have machines at the landfills? We can try to, but that will not solve the problem. As Manoj Datta ji already showed us. So the biggest and the only solution is that we, every single person, you and me, should be doing waste segregation at source, at our houses. If we do not start, if we are not segregating, then this waste will fill and it will become leachate no matter what technology we come up with. It will be contaminated. And we are bringing poison back into our ecosystem. So how do we do it? One of the big is something called an eco-brick. Eco-brick is nothing but it's a plastic bottle. in which you capture small pieces of plastic and small pieces of single-use polythene, something that cannot be recycled. It's very important that non-recyclable plastic and small pieces of cut pieces, which are not usually bought by our circular economy, should be used in making these eco bricks. Just take a clean bottle, insert the polythene and plastic pieces, stuff it with a stick, and your eco brick is ready. And what do we do? What do we put in it? All these small, tiny pieces of plastic. Just do not let them out of your house. The burden of the waste management in India should not and cannot lie with the private players or with the government. It lies on us, the people. Someone in the beginning of our webinar spoke about changing government policy webinar. But जन जागरण जब होता है ना, तभी हमारी नीतियां बदलती। आपसे मेरे से जब बदलाव आएगा तब नीतियां बदलेंगी। Policies will change only when we are able to change ourselves. So first we start with ourselves. Start putting cut pieces, wrappers, and plastic and small, tiny pieces of plastic waste that cannot be segregated, that cannot be reused or recycled into these eco bricks. And what will we do with the eco bricks? I will come back to it a little bit and tie it back to our circular economy. What should we not put in? Anything that can be recycled, anything that can be compostable should not be put in the eco brick. So eco brick has applications, but firstly, again, I will repeat the same point, is that we should remember that even if we throw it away in the garbage again, it still saves about 100 square feet of space. 100 square feet of plastic that was going to go spread around, 100 pieces of microplastic that has spread around the world will be contained in one small plastic bottle. It adds another layer of protection of these plastics and polythene pieces not becoming leachate. Let me see if I can play this here. Okay, if you see in this picture, in this video, this was taken at a landfill close to Bangalore. There was a mining going on next to a landfill, and they found and they complained about this liquid dripping out of their mining efforts. This is what Manoj Datta, Professor, this is, mind you, this is underground streams of chemicals flowing. And why is this happening? This is happening because we are throwing away things which can be recycled, which can be captured. Waste which should not be waste. For example, our organic waste, which we should be able to sell and get some money out of. Exactly how we sell our newspapers and are able to get money out of that. That is ending up here, combined with the plastic and small cut pieces that should not be going into a landfill also, which should be captured in like an eco brick. Some examples of what people are doing with eco bricks once they have created them. One is this Haryana's Mission Green Foundation. They are taking one eco brick and giving 3 cloth bags in return. In Dehradun, they are making an eco park. They created so many eco bricks that the entire polythene waste of Dehradun was finished. They had to wait for a little while to be able to collect polythene again and small cut pieces again to be able to create more eco bricks to create this eco park. If you see, they have made tree guards, they have made footpath and even benches out of these eco bricks. Now remember, every single eco brick that we are using over here, 100 square feet of land is getting saved. And 10 square kilometers of that groundwater, which gets contaminated with leachate, that gets saved. In Delhi, they used women who were living in slums to make these eco bricks. They were given jobs. So this is coming back to the circular economy of getting jobs and creating entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are not just the people who are making and working in waste management maps. Entrepreneurs are also the people who are working on a sustainable living, small businesses, the people who actually make our economy work. So these slum women, women who lived in slums, women who lived in slums were making eco bricks and getting about 10 rupees per eco brick. And these people made furniture out of it, and they were getting offers of about 600 to 700 rupees per stool. In Haryana, somebody has made a wall out of eco bricks. Some locations where the government has supported, especially with Nitin Gadkari ji having given a green light to using plastic in road building. These things are also getting used in road building. Some locations we have created footpaths. Now we say that Polythene Bandhan is Dharti Vandan. So we should follow our culture and do Dharti Vandan by doing Polythene Ka Bandhan. Now my presentation ends. Thank you so much. I will just again request everybody to start waste segregation at source. This is how we are going to contribute back to the economy, create a Atmanirbhar Bharat by creating smaller recyclable uses of maybe an eco brick or compostable waste or small pieces of plastic or iron that can be segregated and creating entrepreneurs who can use it or reuse it. So thank you. I will stop.
Thank you, Devi. It was very nice talk, and especially with your experience, you are working with the ground level and making this eco bricks. It was a very interesting and thought process has increased. How can we make use this polythenes and also the bottles which we have into a useful eco-path, key guard, foot, benches, bricks, wall, and how the entrepreneurship can develop, and these ladies are getting money out of it by doing the dual work. They are doing good for the environment, at the same time entrepreneurship, they're increasing the salary or the money for themselves. The circular economy is very important. Waste to wealth is very important. Waste to be, it is not waste, it is a resource which is lying in the wrong place. I'm also a person who is working in the same field, and the waste segregation also I feel very important. Waste to energy also very important. Eco compost, making of compost and reusing it. So that's a very important field one has to work, being an environmental scientist or to sustain our environment for large. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much being here. This next is the last presentation we have for today. That is from the Mr. Imtiaz Ali. He is a renowned waste to energy implementer from Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, founder of Sarthak Sanstha, which has a self-work group inspiring people to collect, recycle plastic waste, and very important for the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan for our Prime Minister Dream Project. Thank you, sir. Imtiaz ji, please start your presentation. Thank you. You have to unmute yourself, sir. Please unmute yourself. Yeah, yes, please. Right.
आप सभी को मेरा स्वच्छ नमस्कार। जैसा कि आप सब अभी सुरभि जी ने प्लास्टिक के बारे में काफी प्रॉब्लम्स बताई और किस तरह ये प्रॉब्लम प्लास्टिक जो है एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या के रूप में हमारे समाज में विराजमान है। अब प्लास्टिक के बारे में ये कहा जाता है कि एक ऐसा पदार्थ है, अगर इसको 1000 साल भी जमीन में दबा कर रखा जाए तो ये वैसा ही निकलता है। और प्लास्टिक के डिस्पोजल के लिए नित नए तरीके अडॉप्ट किए गए, लेकिन हम लोगों ने वर्ष 2006 और 2007 में मध्य प्रदेश प्रदूषण नियंत्रण बोर्ड के साथ मिलकर एक भोपाल मॉडल प्रोजेक्ट पे काम करना शुरू किया था, क्योंकि प्लास्टिक उस समय पे भोपाल में जो निकल रहा था, उससे पहले व्यवस्था ये थी कि माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 2008, 7 और 8 के अंदर 20 माइक्रोन की पॉलिथीन पर बैन लगाया। इससे पहले व्यवस्था ये थी, जो हमारे कचरा बीनने वाले, कचरा चुनने वाले, जिनको हम रैक पिकर्स, बेस्ट पिकर कहते हैं, जो हमारे द्वारा फेंके गए कचरे में से अपनी काम की चीजों को चुनते हैं और अपना और अपने परिवार का पालन पोषण करते हैं, उन लोगों द्वारा ये प्लास्टिक को कलेक्ट करके कबाड़ी वाले को सेल किया जाता था, और ये कबाड़ी वाले उनको रिसाइकल को देते थे, रिसाइकलिंग के नए उत्पाद बनाकर मार्केट में लेके आते थे। लेकिन जैसे ही 20 माइक्रोन की पॉलिथीन पे बैन लगा, तो ये प्लास्टिक उठना बंद हो गया। और भोपाल में उस टाइम पे देखा गया कि एक हैवी रेनफॉल हुआ, जो आज से 4 साल पहले बेंगलोर में स्थिति हुई थी कि जलमग्न हो गया था, जितने भी हमारे सीवेज बॉडी है वो सारे पॉलिथीन के फंसने से जल अवरुद्ध हो गया था, और वही की वही स्थिति भोपाल में निर्मित हुई। तो वहीं से हम लोगों ने एक भोपाल मॉडल परियोजना की परिकल्पना करी कि प्लास्टिक को कलेक्शन और उसमें रोज पिकर्स और कचरा बीनने वालों को रोजगार उपलब्ध कराना, साथ ही इस प्लास्टिक का साइंटिफिक डिस्पोजल करना। अब प्लास्टिक के बारे में जो कहा जाता है कि ये नॉन रिसाइकलेबल, नॉन यूज या मल्टीलेयर प्लास्टिक जो है, इसको डिस्पोज करना बहुत ही मुश्किल था। तो इसी प्लास्टिक पे हम लोगों ने काम करना शुरू किया, और मध्य प्रदेश पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड के साथ मिलकर हम लोगों ने एससीसी कैमोर में एक ट्रायल रन किया कि यदि इस प्लास्टिक को हाई डिग्री टेम्परेचर पर बर्न किया जाए तो इसके क्या रिजल्ट आएंगे। हम लोगों ने जब इसे 800 डिग्री टेम्परेचर पर बर्न किया तो इसमें फेरॉन और डाइक्सिन जो थे रिलीज हुए, लेकिन जैसे ही इसको 1200 डिग्री टेम्परेचर पर बर्न किया तो फेरॉन और डाइक्सिन जो थे वो 0 हो गए, और इसकी जो कैलोरीफिक वैल्यू थी वो कोयले से 3 टाइम ज्यादा थी। यहीं से हमारे इस प्रोजेक्ट को मिला। हम लोग ने भोपाल में एक 10 बाई 10 का एक कलेक्शन सेंटर शुरू किया, और वहां पर इस प्लास्टिक को कलेक्ट करके सिविल इंडस्ट्रीज में एज ए अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज करने के लिए हमने इसको देना शुरू किया। भोपाल के अंदर उस समय पे लगभग 20 से 25 पशुओं की मृत्यु सिर्फ पॉलिथीन खाने से हो रही थी, और एक एक पशु के आमाशय में से लगभग 20 से 25 किलो पॉलिथीन की गांठें निकल रही थी। साथ ही जो नगर निगम का जो अमला होता है, उनको जो सीएस लाइन वाला जो उनका अमला होता है, लगभग नगर निगम का जो रेवेन्यू वाला पार्ट था, वो 40% सिर्फ नालों की सफाई में ही खर्च हो जाता था। तो इन 3 इश्यूज को लेते हुए हम लोगों ने प्लास्टिक अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन रैक पिकर उत्थान परियोजना भोपाल से प्रारंभ की, और यहीं से हम लोगों ने इस कार्य को शुरू किया। अब भोपाल में जो हम लोगों ने काम किया, लगभग 19 जोन, 84 वार्ड और लगभग 23 लाख की आबादी को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम लोगों ने 5 कलेक्शन सेंटर्स बनाए, और इन 5 कलेक्शन सेंटर्स के अंदर जितने हमारे 1650 कचरा बीनने वाले रैक पिकर्स थे, उनको अपने साथ जोड़ा, और साथ जोड़कर उन्हें स्वरोजगार मुखी बनाने के लिए प्रयास, क्योंकि वर्ल्ड कहता है कि जो नगरीय जनसंख्या होती है उसका लगभग 2% भाग जो है वो कचरा बीनने वाले या कचरे पर निर्भर परिवार है। तो इन्हीं 2% लोगों को हम लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई किया और उनके साथ काम करना शुरू किया, क्योंकि ये पूरी परियोजना जो थी नानाजी देशमुख से प्रेरित होकर बनाई गई थी। मैं खुद नानाजी के साथ काम किया, तो नानाजी का एक कथन था कि मैं अपने लिए नहीं हूं, अपनों के लिए हूं, और अपने वो हैं जो दरिद्र एवं उपेक्षित हैं। तो शहरी क्षेत्र में हमें सबसे ज्यादा दरिद्र वो व्यक्ति लगा जो हमारे द्वारा फेंके गए कचरे में से अपनी काम की चीजों को चुनता है और हमारा और पर्यावरण का संरक्षण करता है। तो उन्हीं वर्ग को लेते हुए हम लोगों ने परियोजना प्रारंभ की, और लगभग मध्य प्रदेश के 23 यूएलबी के अंदर 7 इस परियोजना को हम लोगों ने प्रारंभ किया। जहां भी कचरा बीनने वाले थे, भोपाल के अंदर लगभग 3200 रैक पिकर्स हम लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई किए। इसमें से लगभग 80 से 85% जो महिलाएं थी जो इस काम में इन्वॉल्व थी, और जो 15 से 20% जो थे पुरुष थे, उनको कचरे को सर पे ढोने की व्यवस्था थी। इस व्यवस्था को खत्म करने के लिए हम लोगों ने साइकिल रिक्शा को यहाँ पर प्रमोट किया, और उनकी कॉलोनियों में, बस्तियों में जाकर इन कचरा बीनने वाले परिवारों को अपने साथ जोड़ने के लिए एक सहमति बनाई और उनको नगर निगम के साथ जोड़ा। उसी समय पे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरमेंट और केंद्र सरकार द्वारा एक योजना पर काम किया गया कि कचरा बीनने वालों को नगरीय निकायों में जोड़ा जाए, उनका एनरोलमेंट करा जाए। वहीं से इन कचरा बीनने वालों को गवर्नमेंट का संरक्षण प्राप्त हुआ, और जिन कचरा बीनने वालों को कचरा बीनने वाला, कचरा चुनने वाला हम बोलते हैं, उनको सार्थक कर्मी का नाम दिया गया। और सभी जगहों पर जा जाके जहां पर ये कचरा बीनने वाले सार्थक कर्मी काम करते थे, उनके ओरिएंटेशन कैंप किए, और सारे कचरा बीनने वालों को हमने अपने साथ जोड़ा, और साथ जोड़कर इस परियोजना का एक अहम हिस्सा बनाया। उनके पूरे एनरोलमेंट हुए, उनके हेल्थ चेकअप, उनके बच्चे इस काम के अंदर ना जाए, उनके लिए एजुकेशन सिस्टम, उनकी एल्डर महिलाओं के लिए अलग अलग स्किल डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम करके साइकिल रिक्शों के माध्यम से हम लोगों ने 2008 में डोर टू डोर कचरा कलेक्शन का एक प्रोग्राम शुरू किया और एक रेवेन्यू मॉडल म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन भोपाल को दिया। आज पूरे मध्य प्रदेश के अंदर लगभग 23,000 साइकिल रिक्शों के माध्यम से कचरे का कलेक्शन होता है और डोर टू डोर कलेक्शन करके प्लास्टिक को अलग किया जाता है। और इसमें भी रैक पिकर सार्थक कर्मियों को ही इन्वॉल्व किया गया है, जिससे कि इनको एक अस्थायी रोजगार मिला है, साथ ही प्रतिष्ठा भी स्थापित हुई। हम लोगों ने हमारे जो प्लास्टिक कलेक्शन सेंटर्स बनाए, यहाँ पर उस एरिया के जो भी सार्थक कर्मी कचरा बीनने वाले होते हैं वो कलेक्शन सेंटर्स पर ये प्लास्टिक को लेके आते हैं। यहाँ वो प्लास्टिक लिया जाता है जो कि नॉन रिसाइकलेबल है और रिसाइकलेबल है। नॉन रिसाइकल प्लास्टिक को हम लोग जो है इसकी गांठें बनाकर सिविल इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर इसको एज ए अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज करने के लिए भेजते हैं। साथ ही रोड निर्माण में भी इस प्लास्टिक को हम लोग भेजते हैं। लगभग 8,000 किलोमीटर पिछले 5 वर्षों के अंदर मध्य प्रदेश में प्लास्टिक से रोड निर्माण हुआ है और बिटुमेन डामर से सस्ते रोड 12% सस्ते रोड यहाँ पर निर्मित हुए हैं। साथ ही जो लंबी अवधि चलने वाले रोड है बिटुमेन और प्लास्टिक के रोड को अगर कंपेयर करें तो ये रोड बिटुमेन 3 टाइम ज्यादा चलते हैं। इस तरह हम लोगों ने एक पूरा एक सिस्टमेटिक अप्रोच गवर्नमेंट को दिया और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन ने 2014 में भोपाल मॉडल को अडॉप्ट किया और आज लगभग 5,000 सिटीज के अंदर भोपाल मॉडल को रिप्लिकेट किया जा रहा है। सभी जो सिविल इंडस्ट्रीज थी, इन सिविल इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर इस प्लास्टिक को एज अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज करने के लिए एक पूरी नीति केंद्रीय प्रदूषण नियंत्रण बोर्ड के द्वारा बनाई गई और मध्य प्रदेश शासन ने इसको अनुशंसा करके दिल्ली भेजा। जो भी सिविल इंडस्ट्री है वो कोल में लगभग 12% प्लास्टिक का यूज करते हैं। पिछले 10 सालों से प्लास्टिक जो है इन सिविल इंडस्ट्री को जा रहा है, किसी भी तरह का कोई नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट नहीं है। लगभग 1200 से 1400 डिग्री टेम्परेचर पर इस प्लास्टिक को जो है इन सिविल इंडस्ट्रियों के अंदर एज अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज किया जा सकता है, किया जा रहा है और बहुत ज्यादा कोयले की बचत की जा रही है। और इस प्लास्टिक का कोई रिड्यूस या इसका कोई दूसरा वेस्टेज भी नहीं बचता है, 30% इसका निष्पादन हो जाता है। और एसीसी कैमोर ने ही लास्ट ईयर लगभग 5 करोड़ रुपए का कोयला सिर्फ प्लास्टिक को अपनी इंडस्ट्री में बंद करके बचाया। तो कचरा बीनने वालों के सामने एक बहुत अच्छा स्वरोजगार का और जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत की आज जो बात की जा रही है कि 2007 और 8 के अंदर नानाजी देशमुख की प्रेरणा से हम लोगों ने प्रारंभ की थी और आज लगभग मध्य प्रदेश में 19,000 कचरा बीनने वाले जिनकी इनकम पहले 60 से 70 रुपए थी, आज 500 रुपए हो गई है। और वो भी स्वच्छ भारत मिशन में, स्वच्छता सर्वेक्षण में शासन को कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर अपना सहयोग दे रहे हैं। हम लोगों ने एक इस प्लास्टिक को के अंदर बहुत से इनर मटेरियल और फूड वेस्ट होता था, इसको कैसे क्लीन करें, तो इसके लिए हम लोगों ने एक फटका मशीन यहाँ पर बनाई जिसकी लागत लगभग 45,000 रुपए आई। इस फटका मशीन के अंदर हम गंदा प्लास्टिक डालते हैं और पूरा डस्ट जो होता है वो नीचे की साइड जमा हो जाता है और क्लीन प्लास्टिक जो होती है वो दूसरी साइड गिर जाती है। इस प्रकार इस क्लीन प्लास्टिक को हम लोग जो है रोड निर्माण के अंदर यूज करते हैं, जिससे कि सस्ते और सुलभ रोड बनाए जा रहे हैं। दूसरी हम लोगों ने बैलिंग मशीन के माध्यम से लगभग 120 केजी के बिल्डर्स बनाते हैं और इन बिल्डर्स को हम लोग जो है सिविल इंडस्ट्रीज में अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज करने के लिए भेजते हैं, जिससे कि जो प्लास्टिक या वेस्ट की जो ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉस्ट थी वो लगभग 40% जो थी वो कम हुई, क्योंकि नगर निगमों के अंदर कचरे को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में अधिकतर राशि खत्म होती है। उस राशि को कम करने के लिए ये बैलिंग मशीनों का संचालन हम लोगों ने अपने सभी संग्रहण केंद्रों पर किया और सफलतापूर्वक ये सिविल इंडस्ट्रियों को भेजा जा रहा है। इसके अलावा प्लास्टिक को जो कि 40 माइक्रोन से नीचे का प्लास्टिक था कि 2.4 साइज के चिप्स बनाकर हम लोगों ने रोड निर्माण के अंदर इसका काम शुरू किया। आज मध्य प्रदेश में लगभग 8,000 किलोमीटर रोड बनाए गए हैं और केंद्र सरकार ने सार्थक की ही अनुशंसा पर जो भी ग्रामीण रोड है वो 10% अब प्लास्टिक रोड से बनाए गए। इसके लिए इसी वर्ष जो है इन्होंने अध्यादेश जारी किया है और सभी प्रदेशों के अंदर आज प्लास्टिक से रोड बनाए जा रहे हैं और कचरा बीनने वालों को जोड़ा जा रहा है। स्वच्छता सर्वेक्षण के अंदर भी उन अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज को विशेष अंक दिए जा रहे हैं जिन्होंने प्लास्टिक से रोड बनाने का काम अपनी अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज के अंदर किया है। इस प्रकार स्वच्छता सर्वेक्षण के अंदर एक प्रतिस्पर्धा होने के कारण कचरा बीनने वालों को भी यूएलबी के साथ जोड़ा जा रहा है और प्लास्टिक से रोड बनाने का काम बहुत तेजी के साथ इन प्रदेशों के अंदर चल रहा है। मध्य प्रदेश के अंदर लगभग 8,000 किलोमीटर रोड बने हैं और आने वाले टाइम के अंदर लगभग 1,500 किलोमीटर रोड बनाने का और लक्ष्य जो है मध्य प्रदेश शासन ने लिख किया है। यदि आप मध्य प्रदेश के अंदर ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों के अंदर आएंगे जहां आपको हल्के पीले कलर के रोड मिलेंगे तो ये मानिए कि वो प्लास्टिक से ही बने रोड है। इन प्लास्टिक की रोड की खासियत ये है कि बिटुमेन से इनकी लाइफ 3 टाइम ज्यादा होती है और लागत भी लगभग 12% कम आती है। इसके इस पूरे मॉडल को देखने दूसरे राज्यों के और लगभग 13 अन्य देशों के लोग समय समय पर भोपाल इंदौर आए हैं और इस परियोजना का अनुसरण किया है और अपने अपने राज्यों के अंदर, अपने अपने देशों के अंदर इसको लागू किया गया है। एक पूरा सिस्टम है अप्रोच प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट भोपाल मॉडल हमने केंद्र सरकार को दिया। और बट 2008, 2011 और 2016 में जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट ने जो प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट की पॉलिसी लॉन्च की, उसमें भोपाल मॉडल को मिरर रखा गया और उसी आधार पर आज पूरे देश के अंदर प्लास्टिक मैनेजमेंट का कार्य जो है क्रियान्वित किया जा रहा है। हम लोगों ने 3 फेज के अंदर इस परियोजना को प्रारंभ किया। सर्वप्रथम हम लोगों ने कलेक्शन सेंटर बनाया, फिर वहां के रेक्टिकस को अपने साथ जोड़ा, उनके बच्चों के लिए पूरा शैक्षिक स्तर हो, इनके लिए पूरा आइडेंटिटी कार्ड हो, हेल्थ चेकअप हो, ये सारी व्यवस्थाएं की, हेल्थ सेफ्टी गियर इनके लिए हो, साथ ही इनके बच्चे इनके साथ भीगने ना जाए, ये किया। इसके अलावा इनको साइकिल रिक्शा के माध्यम से हम लोगों ने कलेक्शन मैकेनिज्म डेवलप किया। साथ ही इनके स्वयं सहायता समूह बनाकर उनको इंटीग्रेटेड करके इनका सिस्टम अप्रोच करके इनकी इकोनॉमिकल कंडीशन को बेटर किया और डिफरेंट कॉलोनियों के अंदर, मोहल्लों के अंदर इनके समूह बनाकर इनके माध्यम से काम किया। पहले भोपाल और इंदौर के अंदर कचरा बीनने वालों पर लगभग 70% कचरा बीनने वालों पर आपराधिक प्रकरण दर्ज होते थे, क्योंकि जो कचरा बीनने वाला पहले कचरे के ढेर पर जाता था उसको अत्यधिक कचरा मिलता था या प्लास्टिक मिलता था, वो चुन लेता था, लेकिन जो बाद में आता था उसको कम मिलता था और फिर वो दूसरी आपराधिक गतिविधियों में जाता था। अब हम लोगों ने एक सिस्टम अप्रोच बनाकर हर 2 कचरा बीनने वाले सार्थक कर्मियों को 200 से 250 घर अलॉट किए, वहां पर वो जाते हैं, डोर टू डोर कलेक्शन करते हैं और उसमें से अपना काम का कचरा निकालते हैं, बाकी कचरा नगर निगम के ट्रांसफर स्टेशनों पर लाकर जमा करते हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त हम लोगों ने प्लास्टिक के जो कैरी बैग है इनका चलन कम हो, इसके लिए प्लास्टिक के हम लोगों ने कागज के बैग और कॉटन के बैग बनाना शुरू किए। साथ ही जो अमानक स्तर का प्लास्टिक छापामार कार्रवाई के अंदर निकलता है उससे हम लोगों ने कुशन और इसके उत्पाद बनाए हैं, जिससे कि इनके सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप को रोजगार मिला है और आज अमेरिका और वाशिंगटन और न्यूयॉर्क तक ये कुशन जो है भोपाल से गए हैं। इसके अलावा जो इनर मटेरियल निकलता है या जो सीएनडी वेस्ट है उसके साथ इस प्लास्टिक को मिक्स करके हम लोगों ने पेपर ब्लॉक और टाइल बनाने की 2 यूनिटें लगाई हैं, जिससे कि लोगों को रोजगार मिल सके और आत्मनिर्भर भारत की जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने की है वो सार्थक हो सके। इसके अलावा प्लास्टिक की एक हम लोगों ने पॉली शीट बनाई है। इस शीट की खासियत ये है ना तो ये पानी में खराब होती, ना ये बर्फ में खराब होती, ना ही इसके अंदर आग लगती है। इससे हम लोगों ने डिफरेंट टाइप के डस्टबिन बनाए हैं, गार्डन चेयर बनाई है और बहुत सारे शोपीस बनाकर 2 ये संयंत्र हम लोगों ने मध्य प्रदेश में लगाया है, जहां पर इस तरह की शीट बनाकर लोगों को रोजगार दिया जा रहा है और अमानक स्तर का जो नॉन रिसाइकल प्लास्टिक है उसकी शीट बनाकर उसका भी रीयूज किया जा रहा है। इसके अलावा जो सैलून और पार्लर से जो बाल निकलते हैं, बालों के बारे में कहा जाता है ये भी बहुत समय तक, लगभग 5 साल तक भी अगर इस जमीन में दबा के रखा जाए तो डाइल्यूट नहीं होते, तो बालों को भी डाइल्यूट करके हम लोगों ने सार्थक ग्रोथ प्रमोटर बनाया है और माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने लखनऊ के अंदर इस पूरे भोपाल मॉडल का अध्ययन करके इसको संपूर्ण भारत में लागू करने के लिए अनुशंसा की थी और आज ये जैविक खाद का एक बेहतर विकल्प बन के मध्य प्रदेश में आया है। हमने इसको 3 और राज्यों में भी, उत्तर प्रदेश और छत्तीसगढ़ और राजस्थान में भी इसको रिप्लिकेट किया है, जिसमें हम सैलून और पार्लर से निकलने वाले बालों को कचरा बीनने वाले समूहों के माध्यम से इकट्ठा करते हैं और उसकी जैविक खाद बनाकर किसानों को और कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी को सप्लाई करते हैं। इसके अलावा हम लोगों ने मध्य प्रदेश के डिफरेंट यूएलबी के अंदर 20 रुपए से लेकर 8 लाख रुपए तक की कंपोस्ट यूनिटें स्थापित की है, जिसमें सस्ता और सुलभ जैविक खाद बनाया जा सके और आसानी से लोगों को मिल सके। आज भोपाल के अंदर ही अकेले लगभग प्रतिदिन 20 से 25 मैट्रिक टन जैविक खाद घरों के अंदर बनता है और ये जैविक खाद जो उनका उपयोग होता है वो उपयोग करते हैं और बाकी जो है किसानों को या बड़े बड़े गार्डन को बेच देते हैं। हम लोगों ने हैंगिंग कंपोस्टिंग, पिट कंपोस्टिंग, ट्यूबुलर कंपोस्टिंग, ये ड्रम कंपोस्टिंग है, इसके अंदर लिक्विड कंपोस्ट और सॉलिड कंपोस्ट मिलता है। डिफरेंट रिलीजियस पैलेस पे हम लोगों ने ये कंपोस्ट ड्रम्स लगाए हुए हैं, जहां पर निकलने वाले निर्माल्य और जो भी फूल पत्ते निकलते हैं मंदिर मजार में, उनको वहीं पर डिकम्पोज करके खाद बनाई जाती है और उसको भी सेल करके वहां के लोगों को रोजगार मुखी बनाया जा रहा है। ये ट्यूबुलर कंपोस्टर हम लोगों ने विभिन्न गुरुद्वारों के अंदर और मंदिरों के अंदर लगाए हैं, ताकि वहां भी अगर जो भी निर्माल्य निकलता है उसको भी जैविक खाद के अंदर बदलकर लोगों को रोजगार दे और कचरे का ऑन स्पॉट ही डिस्पोजल करके उसका निष्पादन करें। डिफरेंट पेपर्स ने भोपाल मॉडल को समय समय पर सराहा है और 2006 से लेकर 2020 तक की जो एक जर्नी हुई है, आज ये पूरे देश में ही नहीं बल्कि 13 और राज्यों के अंदर इस भोपाल मॉडल को रिप्लिकेट किया है। लास्ट ईयर वर्ल्ड बैंक ने एशिया की सर्वश्रेष्ठ परियोजना इस भोपाल मॉडल को माना है और मेरे द्वारा WHO के अंदर इस पूरी परियोजना का सूत्रीकरण 142 कंट्री के सामने दिया गया, जिसमें 23 कंट्रियों ने इस मॉडल को अपने देशों में लागू करने के लिए सहमति दी और लगभग 12 देशों के लोग भोपाल आकर इस पूरी परियोजना का अध्ययन करके जा चुके हैं और वहां पर इसको रिप्लिकेट कर रहे हैं। अभी जो हमारे यहाँ भोपाल में धार्मिक इज्तिमा होता है, इसमें लगभग 14 लाख लोग आते हैं। इससे भी जो कचरा निकलता है उसको निष्पादन करने में आयोजन समिति को बहुत ज्यादा पैसा लगता था, तो तो हम लोगों ने वहां पर एक जीरो वेस्ट का कैंपिंग की और लगभग 4 सालों के अंदर हम लोगों ने वहां पर एक अस्थायी कंपोस्ट यूनिट बनाकर, और जो भी कचरा वहां, चाहे वो कॉटन हो, प्लास्टिक हो और डिफरेंट टाइप के प्लास्टिक हो, सबको कलेक्ट करके हम लोगों ने 2019 के अंदर तो यहाँ पर आयोजन हुआ था इस्तीमे का, लगभग 14 लाख उस कार्यक्रम के लोग आए थे, और वहां से निकलने वाले पूरे कचरे का निष्पादन करके हम लोगों ने 4.5 लाख रुपए बचाकर उस आयोजन समिति को दिए। मध्य प्रदेश शासन ने और केंद्र सरकार ने और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन ने इस परियोजना को बहुत सराहा, और जहां भी मेगा गैदरिंग होंगी, अभी कुंभ में भी इस पूरे परियोजना का अनुसरण किया गया था। इस प्रकार कचरे का पूरा साइंटिफिक डिस्पोजल करने के लिए इस भोपाल मॉडल को भी वहां पर रिप्लिकेट किया जा रहा है। इसके अतिरिक्त लगभग 14 राष्ट्रीय अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पुरस्कार इस भोपाल मॉडल को मिले हैं, और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के अंदर इसको अडॉप्ट करते हुए, यूएनडीपी के माध्यम से अडॉप्ट करते हुए लगभग 5000 शहरों के अंदर अभी इस मॉडल का रिप्लिकेशन किया जा रहा है। और इस तरह से इस प्लास्टिक का, जो कि नॉन रिसाइकल प्लास्टिक था, नॉन रियूजेबल प्लास्टिक था, उसका पूरा उपयोग हुआ है, उससे कचरा बीनने को रोजगार मिला है, और कचरा बीनने वालों को रोजगार मिलने के साथ साथ जो उनकी बीच में आत्मनिर्भरता जो आई है, जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत की जो परिकल्पना हुई है, वो भी बहुत हद तक इसमें सार्थक हुई है। इस वर्ष लगभग 4.5 लाख कचरा बीनने वाले सार्थक कर्मियों को स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के अंतर्गत सब रोजगार मिला है, और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के माध्यम से ये अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज से जुड़कर अपना रोजगार चला रहे हैं, और जिनकी इनकम पहले 60-70 रुपए थी, वो इनकम बढ़कर आज लगभग 400 से 500 रुपए हुई है, और ये भी अपने आप को समाज का एक हिस्सा मानकर अब समाज की प्रगति में और पर्यावरण संरक्षण में और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के अंदर कांधे से कांधा लगाकर शासन को अपना सहयोग दे रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट मूवी। इसके बाद इस पे कई डॉक्यूमेंट्री मूवीज भी बनी है। एक मूवी जो इस पर लास्ट टाइम बनी है, वो मैं आप लोगों के सामने प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगा। कुछ नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम की वजह से शायद नेट कुछ स्लो चल रहा है, जल्दी लोड हो रहा है।
सर मैं चला दूं?
हाँ, आप चला दीजिए सर। हो गया, चालू हो गया।
कचरा कितना पंद्रह साल से कचरा गिनना शुरुआत कर रहा हूँ। 6 बजे से घर से निकल के पन्नी, कागज, प्लास्टिक, कुत्ते, कांच वगैरह ये सब टोटल सामान हम लोग उठाते हैं। पन्नी जो पड़ी रहती चीजें गंदी उठा के हम लेते हैं। व्यापारी लोग क्या बोलते हैं, गंदी पन्नी है, आधा वजन काटो, आधा वजन बोले लोग क्या बोलते हैं, हम लोग सामान कॉलोनी में बाहर निकल जाओ उठाते हैं। फिर हमारा ऐसा नगर निगम है जब बना हमारा, तो हमको कोई लोग ने मना नहीं करा। लोग बोलते आओ बिल के ले जाओ, आधा वजन काटो, आधा वजन।
ये रेवेन्यू मॉडल इसमें तैयार किया गया है, इसमें रैपिडस को डिवाइड किया गया है। रैपिडस अलग अलग फिगर्स स्थापित किए हैं और रैपिडस का पंजीयन कराया गया है, और उनके माध्यम से रैपिडस से ही पॉलिसी किस तरह की क्लासिफिकेशन की जाती है। रैपिडस की जो इनकम है वो डिग्री हुई है।
यूएनडीपी गैस एसडीजी के माध्यम से हम लोगों ने परियोजना प्रारंभ की है। इस परियोजना का मुख्य उद्देश्य कचरा बीनने वालों को रोजगार के अवसर उपलब्ध कराना है, ताकि ऐसा पॉल्यूशन जो कि रिसाइक्लेबल है, तो ना तो रिसाइकल किया जा सकता और ना ही स्टोर किया जा सकता, इकट्ठा करके सड़क निर्माण और में एज अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल यूज करने के लिए हम योजना कर रहे हैं।
जी मैडम, बस एंड हो रहा है।
ओके
आधे मिनट का है ये बस।
ठीक, स्क्रीन में आ नहीं रहा सर।
पेपर में मेरा बच्चा पढ़ा
स्क्रीन में आ नहीं रहा।
मम्मी पूरा ये पन्नी पिन से है ना,
स्क्रीन पे नहीं है।
स्क्रीन पे नहीं है सर।
ये रोड में पन्नी डलाती है।
That's when it is not shared.
इम्तियाज जी स्क्रीन पे नहीं आ रहा,
ओके
सामने
ओके,
नहीं आ
कर रहा हूँ, शेयर कर रहा हूँ।
It is not shared actually.
रहा। And there's some noise also, background noise.
Right, right.
कर देती सर। आप आ रहा है मैम, देखिएगा।
नहीं सर, अभी तक तो आया नहीं मेरे पास, मेरे एंड में नहीं दिखाई देता।
ओके, जो जी वो
इम्तियाज जी नहीं आ रहा है सामने।
हाँ,
चलिए सर, मैं इसको सभी लोगों के साथ शेयर कर लूंगा, मैंने ऑलरेडी भेजा हुआ है इसको।
यस सर, ठीक है सर।
आपके लिए भेजा हुआ है, वो चला देंगे। तो इस तरह सर कचरे से कंचन और कचरे से रोजगार प्राप्त हो, और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन और आत्मनिर्भर भारत की परिकल्पना सार्थक हो, इसी को ध्यान में रखते हुए नानाजी देशमुख के प्रेरणा से ये पूरे भारत के अंदर लागू है, और 4 और देशों के अंदर इसको लागू किया जा रहा है। इसमें कचरा बीनने वालों को रोजगार देना और कचरे का निष्पादन करना। इसी के साथ मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम दूंगा। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद इम्तियाज जी। सार्थक संस्था बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही है। Well with the waste, and waste is as a resource you are making it. At the same time, you are empowering the people also. So many ladies are empowered by your work. Really, you are doing very good work, and this is incredible work. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद।
So now we are going to this webinar. Now I invite Professor Ramanathan, XT, School of Environmental Science, JNU, my guide, my mentor for this valedictory remark. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I am happy to give this valedictory address in the Aaj webinar series on the weather and climate services, as well as the waste to wealth, and organized by the Aaj and our School of Environmental Science alumni and School of Environmental Science and Disaster Management Center, and by Dheeraj and our all five, Chandar Singh and Manju, all those ex-alumni and students of this CCS. It's very nice thing that both important things are addressed in these things. So we all know that the climate is what you expect and weather is what you get. This is what we always get, that one. And the climate services information is very important, because we are going to get the impact of this climate and prepare our people, because this service is help to prepare our people with actual experience and assist in the decision making of our government. So it is very important. This earlier the European countries and the US is having this climate services, but now we are also having this in India.
Mute. Please unmute your.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Oh, I am happy to be part of this seminar on this, organized by very important thing, the national. So, and I'll start from the beginning, or you heard something or not earlier?
So we heard something, sir.
Okay, okay.
Only last.
Okay, okay. So, okay, okay. So the IMD and this Ministry of Earth Science is producing nowadays the high quality data on the temperature, rainfall, wind, soil moisture, and also the ocean circulation patterns. And they are producing a lot of maps and vulnerability analysis and assessments, and long-term projections and scenarios, which is very important for all our precautions we take. Especially, he has pointed out, the IMD director, as Director General has pointed out, that the cyclones, basically the cyclones in the Amphan and the Pani, that we are able to reduce and also able to reduce the life loss in these regions. And we are doing it a very good work in this thing because of this. And also monsoon predictions also very good, improved a lot in this. which help the farmers to, and also the climate change models they are developed, which help the farmers actually when is the when they can shift the tariff and other crops in this region. Because of the rainfall is shifting, they will also suggest that they can go for this, and what type of crops they should adapt to that adaptations. So these are all very important, because that is what they are linking the meteorological, non-meteorological parameters, and then help the farmers and other things. So this idea and this part is very well dealt by these speakers from the IMD, and our own Anand Sharma, our additional director, and also our dean also highlighted about his work on this atmospheric, how we can tackle these atmospheric pollutants in these regions. And it is a very important and nice work, and we are able to predict. I am very happy to know that we are able to predict all these things by 80% of this flood and other things, hydrometeorological impacts and hazards in this region. So that way, I think that this seminar has highlighted all these issues which is pertinent to the present day climate and hazards in. And the next component is that waste to the wealth. That is the waste to the wealth. And then here also that as all the speakers are pointed out that there is no such thing called waste. All of them are resources, but except maybe the nuclear energy, there also we have to look into how to reuse this nuclear energy for this instead of dumping them into that one. So there is no waste as such. That is what we have pointed out. And I think as of the recent studies, the 62 million tons of waste we are producing every year. Out of this, we are only recycling only 22% of this waste. That means we are recycling only 30% of the waste. Remaining are going for the landfill site or thrown into the different fields. That means that this is the very important. This is how to increase this use of these resources in the region. So we are not having land also to dump, because already in Delhi we don't have already the lands are occupied, and we are not having the place to dump us also. If we need the land, where do we go? The land is the one problem. So simultaneously, and also it is affecting the groundwater, surface water, and the atmospheric pollutions. All these things are caused in this thing. So that is in this context. So it is very important for us to address this issue, and starting with the speakers, Professor Datta, who has highlighted these things and how these for the past 10-15 years, what are the types of we are getting, how we can reuse these things, and also that is it's very difficult for the all of us to use this 100%, but at least we should be able to use it like the other speakers. They have talked about Amitya Salaji, and then Miss Tomer, and then the Professor Rana Pratap Singh. They have also pointed out these things, that how we can reuse that, and every one of us has to contribute to that one, because it's we cannot afford to throw these plastic waste and other waste into the system, because reuse them in the most of them. And then, like for example, the pollution is in winter is caused by only stubbles. The stubbles, we know that we are able to make it a mulching, as well as we are using it for the energy producing electricity, but we don't have the organized sector. That means we should, like they are talking about the plastics, that we are having a circular economy, and then they are able to benefit the individual people who are involved in that. So similarly, we should also talk about the farmers, because they cannot afford to spend 10,000 and 20,000 for removing this from the 1 acre of land, and then that's why they are burning it. So that is also that this type of thing, circular economy, should also be addressed to this, so that also is used as a energy and the fertilizers in this system. So I'm very happy that this ARP and the SES and alumni has addressed these issues, and it is very pertinent. And I think our School of Environmental Science, as Dean has pointed out, that we should also look into this. One is the scientific part and the research part, and then the society linked. So how we can able to help the societies in addressing some new technologies, and also simple technologies by which we can recycle the waste. Like we also already started with the NIS program, that is water harvesting and fertilizer preparation from these available our waste materials from the JNU, but that could not happen because of the pandemic situations. But that is one of the initiatives we are also doing in the School of Environmental Science. And it is very nice that all the alumni come together and then we are discussing these things. And I hope that this type of webinars will be conducted and we all will be benefit out of that, because I also learned a lot of things, because application part we don't do that one, because how they are doing it in the field, how the peoples are benefited out of this, how they are able to conserve this and then reducing the waste in the environment. So this is a very eye-opening for me also, and I hope for everybody also. And I think this type of things and this grassroots AJ and our alumni association should continue to do that, this type of web seminar. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your words, encouraging words. Shadab A. Khan, Joint Secretary AJ, for vote of thanks. Is there? Hello? Shadab? Mr. Shadab? Hello?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, now I can. Yes, Shadab.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. So now I thank all our speakers, participants, and organizers. And it's my privilege having to give a vote of thanks on this occasion on webinar on weather and climate services and on waste to wealth, the way forward for self-reliant India. I, on behalf of AJ and an entire co-hosts and other supporting organizations and our guests and audience, and let me call this a fraternity. We have covered 2 topics here, and I extend our very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. Given our demography, the biggest challenge is to mitigate weather and climate challenges like incessant and untimely rains, severe droughts, pest attacks, and it should be our endeavor to reduce our carbon footprint and the waste that we are leaving. And the urbanization and commercialization is generating huge amount of waste, which has to be effectively utilized for wealth creation, as shown by our different speakers, and which will reduce the pressure on land, and the landfills will go, and this will lead to our self-reliant India by creating avenues for employment and also entrepreneurship. And I thank once again everyone who have participated, and on behalf of AJ, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Shadab. Now at the end, I request everyone to stand up for national anthem.
Jana Jana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkal Vanga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchal Jaladhi Taranga
So I think we will end the session. Yeah, thank you very much for attending this webinar on the important issues. Thank you very much to all panelists and also to the participants. Thank you. Thank you.